first summer of the new millennium brought great excitement to what might be in store for us. A new era of crop circles was in the air, and we didn't have to wait long. On the 27th of April, this small design appeared below Albury Hill Fort. It was to become the curtain raiser for the 2000 season in 4-flower oilseed rape. The design consisted of what can only be described as a teardrop shape with an inner central triangle. Positioned further down the field were 2 satellite grape shot circles. This notorious area for crop circles over the previous years broke the drought for reports at this particular time of the season. It formed in young barley, and on further study of the ground features, we noticed a central pathway which was flattened below the main floor pattern of the formation. It twists and turned the entire length, connecting each circle. The quality of the floor construction seemed to improve the further up the hill. Overall, the formation was very well executed and had such great presence from the roadside. It really epitomised how events such as this one can look in young barley. And so the barley formations continued to form. This beautiful event appeared in a remote location, and the team were very lucky to have the chance to view this crop circle so fresh after its creation. What actually took place here was a series of 10 circles arranged in a triple arm design, consisting of diminishing size circles. As we sweep across, we can see each circle is separated by a small curtain of crop. "100 feet from the formation, there were 3 circles with halos that appeared to be some kind of signature grape shots. At the start of a new week, we received news of this wonderful formation in barley at Southfield near Alton Priors. It came as a great surprise to us in what was an action-packed weekend, with many fine formations already put down in the surrounding area. The formation portrayed a different quality to the other events in Wiltshire. The barley was at a perfect stage in its growth, and this was a fine example of how good looking a crop circle can be in this beautiful medium. From the interior, we can clearly witness the quality of the floor pattern. Many people commented about the tangible atmosphere created in this large field. The ancient earthen mound of Silbury Hill has become a major hotspot for circle activity. We have seen a number of contrasting designs in the shadow of Silbury. However, these 3 circles immediately took us back to once again to an earlier time in crop circling, before the days of the long pictograms. Three circles appeared directly in alignment with Silbury and were quickly named the Circles of Mary, as their positioning meant they appeared directly on the Mary ley line, which meanders through Silbury and West Kennet Longborough. The floor construction at Adamsgrave was reminiscent of an amazing design that appeared a year before. The Alton Barns event provided another opportunity to witness something very similar. This was most certainly a significant event in the development of the phenomenon. Its many grape shots were placed in a snaking line below the circle itself. This particular day in Wiltshire was extremely active for us, as the intensity increased when we spotted this event across from the avenue. Located high on the hillside, it sat alone and majestic, as if it would only invite the most committed of the researchers. A number of us walked steadily towards the formation, like pilgrims on an initiated journey. As we arrived at the location, we looked out to a wonderful ancient landscape. The formation spread out before us. It was quite an experience to be taken back to a time of mystery and wonder. This really was a trip down memory lane, and a feeling of nostalgia, but also a sensation of unworldly awe, which was certainly felt back in the early 90s. There was a different feeling to these 2 dumbbells, which hasn't been felt for a long time. The formation at Golden Ball Hill was the latest designed to indicate rotational geometry, which can be witnessed from an aerial perspective. However, this beautiful formation has not been spoiled by its missing elements, which appear to be deliberate, or by its positioning so close to the hillside. On the 15th of July, we stumbled across this formation, which was classed as one of the most unusual designs to have appeared in 2000. The heart shape was constructed with 3 circles encompassed by 29 circles. All of the circles, excluding the heart inner circles, were flowing in an anti-clockwise rotation, with just a small circle on the outer ring significantly smaller than the rest. People visiting the formation showed great respect for the heart by staying on the outer edge of the design. However, the heart provided an opportunity to see how people react to a shape of this nature set within the landscape. This very large formation was positioned in an area near Avebury. A number of past formations have appeared very close to the henge, but this latest design was situated in a more remote location away from the hustle and bustle of the tourism that hits Avebury in the summer months. The outer ring had a ragged edge appearance, however the outer circles were very well constructed with some wonderful splay centres with bunched sections of crop flowing in unison with their directional flow. The 3 Vesica Pisces designs produced the central interests. All 3 were flowing in 2 directions. This small event, placed on the slopes of opposite Firs Hill, were close to the medieval village of Shore. The design reminded us of a formation very similar in design that occurred in Charminster on the 26th of June in 1994. On this occasion, the design is a simplification of its 1994 predecessor and quite a lot smaller in diameter. Although insignificant in size, this event captivated the spirit of the 2000 season on this glorious summer's night. Many people in the formation enjoyed this atmosphere, as can be seen by the dowsing activity taking place. This was indeed a very sociable event. As everyone left in the setting sun, we took some last shots of an evening we will never forget. White Hill is a shallow incline of fields just outside the hamlet of Lockridge Dean. Prior to the year 2000, the field in question had never been used by the circuit makers. This is very surprising, as it's a prime site and has always been sowed for crops. This impressive design is similar to the Avebury Down formation. These 3 formations appeared to be based on radii arcs of various designs. The formation at White Hill incorporated a middle design made of triangular sections encompassed by a circle of 3 standing portions of crop. This section of crop between 3 points of the triangle were offset from the middle circular outlet, and the whole central pattern was surrounded by a larger outer circle running through the middle of each propeller pattern. The circle was the marking out point to produce the 3 outer propellers. It was based on a very simple geometry, but created a very pleasing formation. Everley Ashes was a delightful setting, close to the Pewsey White Horse, and was thought to have been the most tranquil and beautiful location we had visited that year. We were all very aware now that the connection with the ancient sites and the phenomenon is no coincidence. This formation at Milton Farm certainly confirms this connection. Everley is situated on a high ground in a remote location, bordered by one side by a wood. Positioned on a slight incline within the field, this amazing formation incorporated an Iron Age burial mound as part of its overall design. The formation was based on the old Celtic crosses seen regularly in the 1980s and early 90s. What was even more extraordinary was that the actual top of the burial mound included a spiral circle of nettles in a clockwise rotation. The mysterious White Horse at Uffington has been gazing out onto its plains for many centuries. Its dramatic slopes is a fitting location for the circle maker's designs, and indeed the location itself has been a backdrop to a few designs prior to the new millennium. In 2000, this dragon design positioned itself a few fields away from the slopes of Uffington, and indeed this year was the year of the dragon. Perhaps even the ancient white horse is not a horse, but an indication of what this design was trying to convey. The team arrived at this location late in the day, after an exhausting day for crop circling, but our spirits were lifted as we discovered the dragon was almost in direct alignment with Dragon's Hill. Was this a coincidence? Dragon's Hill is a lower mound below the white horse, and may have an even more profound significance. Its tail had similarities to the 1994 Thought Bubble designs, which is always a welcome sight, and brought back good memories of what was also another great crop circling year. The Silbury Hill formation was placed once again in the vicinity of the Merry Ley line, which cuts through the earthen mound and turns to run directly down the axis of West Kent Longbarrow. We do know that the three circles of Mary are directly on the line, but this larger formation may have been on the fringes. Sometimes a formation which is just touching a ley line can be just as powerful as one directly on the line. It was good to see how people responded to such an atmosphere. I watched many of the visitors inside the formation, and everyone walked very slowly as if they were in some sort of sacred temple or church, basically a place of worship or on sacred ground. There was no doubt in my mind that we are dealing here with how the human mind reacts to the design within the landscape. For instance, one couple just stood in the same place for quite some time without saying a word to each other, just in complete silence. A certain zen-like ambience was taking place, as intuitive understanding between ourselves and the earth. The event at Bishop's Cannings was the second formation to appear along the trunk road of the A361 just outside the historical town of Devizes. Situated less than 100 yards from the earlier formation, we all felt this new pattern was far more in harmony with what we had just been seeing in previous years. The reason for this was that the quality and balance in its geometry indicated how memorable the 2000 season was becoming. It captured the spirit of this amazing season. The people we see here become part of the experience. A feeling of their well-being inside the formation is largely due to its proportions and the understanding of the space within the design. People can mingle and meditate in many sections of its geometry. Its relationship to interlocking features was quite masterful. The atmosphere of this formation infected us all spiritually, and we left in high spirits of what else could be in store for us. And we weren't disappointed. On the same night as the Bishop's Cannings event, just 1.5 miles towards Beckhampton, we had this elegant design representing some kind of 11-bladed turbine, once again showing us an association to 11. This is a recurring number in many of the designs we witnessed today. The entire central pattern was encompassed by an outer ring, with 11 radiating arcs from a central point. In fact, this formation was a perfect example to witness the A to Z of floor patterns. Previously, we have seen many of these patterns before the year 2000. The circuit makers were obviously telling us that one style of floor pattern in one formation isn't all they can produce. All of this took place in the central circle of design, including S shapes as well as nest and raised centres. The quality of the floor construction was impressive. Considering the time of the season when this formation appeared in, the crop was at a transitional stage of its development, from green wheat to golden brown in colour. Inside the central circle, there was no sign of breakage, but the other outer pathways weren't quite in such a good condition. This was probably due to the people visiting the formation. A number of the individuals found the central circle very pleasant, and as we left the formation, Many of them were sleeping quite soundly in the central area of the design. I must say I wanted to join them. After an exhausting day, it would have been just the tonic. This motif-like design had positioned itself in the exact same spot as the Escher Cube from the previous season of '99. There could have only been a few feet in it, but this design was far more articulate, but not without some transmission errors. Even today, we found very hard to crack what this particular design was representing. It is one of those shapes about which you say, I have seen this before, but can't quite work out where. On first appearance, it has some kind of tribal quality, or even perhaps Egyptian. On each side, there are 4 sun rays, but only 3 on one section. Of course, it may have been intentional, but there was a space where the 4th ray could have been placed. Something I noticed while walking around the formation was the amount of stones between the crop. This may have hindered the creation process, which may have caused that particular proportion of crop to be missed out. Positioned just behind the formation are the ramparts of Clifford's Hill. Located at the back of the hill is Ryby Hill Fort, an Iron Age fortification which I have walked in the past and found to be a very beautiful location. The importance of the locations of the formations have been discussed many times on the Copsonetta website. I have mentioned in several reports that the positioning in the landscape has been carefully orchestrated to produce the maximum effect for the onlooker. The Giant's Grave formation was no exception, whether you viewed it from the top of the hill or from the small track leading to the field itself. From both positions, it was a very impressive sight, truly befitting the peacefulness that greeted ourselves on this fine summer's morning. Giant's Grave is part of an ancient settlement that runs from Martinsale Hill to its rather unusual triangulation point overlooking the small village of Orr. There was a tangible atmosphere within the design, a power and presence as I call it. There was hardly any wind on this day and the evening was still. Once again, you are walking on areas that have remained much the same since ancient times. Overall, it was a very encouraging experience. Later in the season, when the crops were being harvested, a shot was taken from the air just before it left us for good. This stretch of land between Picket Hill and Woodbury Hill is a quiet area where very few people walk. It is untouched by our 20th century culture. Only the farmer visits this part of the countryside. But something else resides here, and this was felt very powerfully at Woodbury, as this formation opened up another door into a world we have yet to encounter. This breathtaking formation was positioned high on the hillside between the 2 hills of Woodbury and Picket. It was situated on the brow where the slope ends at Torsmead Copse, another strange location where many signs of light phenomena have been witnessed over the years. The design was very similar to the 1997 Taurus, located on the next field along, only this time with far more precision. If you stand on the far side of the formation and try and view it at the other end, it literally slopes away from you, which is quite extraordinary. The sheer artistry of this design was quite remarkable. Once again, the area of Chilbolton became the focus towards the end of the season. Chilbolton is a small village in the mixture of the old and new dwellings. Its most impressive landmark was not the formation, but its radio telescope. Government owned, it looms down on you from every point and dominates the Chilbolton skyline. However, the field in question became one of the most demanding locations to reach. It was quite fitting to have a crop circle so close to the telescope, and was the second design to appear. There was one previously in '99. Clearly there was some ongoing annual communication taking place at Chilbolton. From the air, it has echoes of the radio telescope incorporated into its overall shape. The formation was located directly in the neighbouring field to the telescope, and was quite an eerie feeling to be standing in the shadow of the structure. It was lucky that the dish wasn't pointing towards us, as you certainly intended to feel like you were being watched in this location. The design was enormous, but from the air you can quite clearly see that the circuit makers had provided echoes of the radio telescope incorporated into its overall shape. The event had a different feel to the workshop formations, and it was handy to find it in such perfect condition, largely due to its remote positioning. That meant that many of the other more delicate smaller circles remained intact. The floor construction was extremely neat. Many sections of crop resembled water flowing over rapids on a river, as the whole formation covered a wide stretch of crop. It must have been the largest square footage from the year 2000. Perhaps its message was trying to convey that we must look to the heavens for the answers. Or are the heavens looking at us? We held back showing this intriguing and mystifying design to the end. We believe this to probably be the most remarkable formation of the 2000 season. Since the year of 1990, we have seen a number of events that tend to draw people's imagination at this very location. This extraordinary formation was placed along the flat fields of A.B. Truslow. This was probably the most amazing event to have occurred in these fields. Our arrival at this location on the 22nd of July meant that we had stumbled across it when it was only a few hours old. But even at this very early stage, many people were already entering the formation. Thankfully, the farmer had allowed access with a small fee to be paid at the gate. It took us quite a long time to decipher the design. The closest interpretation was that it had an uncanny resemblance to the Moray Pool. The first time ever that the circuit makers had moved towards such an idea, and it was a wonderful surprise. The sheer breathtaking artistry within the design was simply astonishing. As you walked around it, you simply just couldn't believe what you were witnessing. The small pathways weaving in and out of the diamond shapes were so detailed. Basically, the pattern resembled a fractal, but morays are commonly created by the interference of two patterns. If you look through the two window screens at an oblique angle, you will see different colours, or even notice colours on the surface of a bubble. The formation becomes three-dimensional because of the uprising central section of crop. An exceptional formation which rounded off a year we shall fondly remember for its quality of designs, spirit and character.